Hey everybody, we are now live for Bible Basics class. I see everybody trickling on in. I'm glad you guys are joining with us tonight. Make sure as you trickle in, you swipe to the right, share it so that all your friends and family members and followers and everybody knows that you are in Bible study right now with our Bible Basics class. I'm glad to have this time with you guys. I'm going to go and share it on all my social media pages right now so I make sure we get the word out that we in Bible study. Of course, as always, hey Nikki, hey Mr. Doug, let me know where you guys are watching from. Hey Jewel, Delta, Cutie Pie, thank you for joining us today. Share it with your followers. Swipe to the right, click share. Then of course, let me know where you're watching from. If you're a member of New Psalmist, let me know. If you're a member of another church, of course, let me know that. If you're from another city, another state, let me know where you're watching from so I can give you guys a shout out. Williamsburg, Virginia. Alrighty. New Psalmist family. Glad you're on. Yeah, we got New Psalmist in the house on Periscope tonight. Pittsburgh, PA. Yes, God is good. Well, I know you guys have been having cold weather up there too. There you go, Lafayette, Louisiana. Alrighty, New Psalmist, Windsor Mill. Amen. We got everybody on with us tonight. We're going to have a great time in our Bible study tonight as we continue to travel through the books of history, picking up today with the book, continuing rather in the books of Kings. So I'm excited. We got some from Woodlawn, Morocco. Alrighty, yes, morning. It's night over here, but it's morning there. Alright, glad you're in with us. Uh-oh. Camera done falling off the tripod. Okay, there we go. It's super cold, but yes, God is able. All right, Odington, Parkville. All righty. Glad you are in with us tonight in Bible Basics class. We're going to have a good time in our Bible study. I'm excited about sharing with you guys tonight. God is really going to do some great stuff with us, and it's going to be a good time. I'm making sure I'm sharing this out on all my social media pages and everything. We want the world to know that we are in Periscope. All righty, from the Virgin Islands. Oh, great. I know hopefully y'all have good weather down there. I wish I was there right now. Pikesville, all righty. Yeah, the weather in Baltimore, has been so up and down. One day it's one way. We got snow, then it's a little warmer. Now it's cold. It was cold this morning. We had a little snow. I don't know what's going on, but I'm believing that the worst of winter is behind us. Owings Mills, all righty. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Glad you're in here. New Jersey. All righty. Set the captives free. Amen. With Dr. Karen Bethea. All righty. Fort Lauderdale. Oh, yes. I know it's nice weather down there. I can't wait till it gets a little nicer. We may have to take a trip. We may need a millennial trip to Fort Lauderdale just because. All right. Connecticut. Yes, in the gym. All right, Nikki. Nikki in the gym working out. Cool. Yes, from Greater Gethsemane. All right, with Dr. Reginald Thomas is the pastor over there on the east side of town. Doing great things. All right, from Japan. Welcome. Glad you're in with us from the other side of the world. Got somebody from Kaiser Permanente and Connecticut. And Cheryl from Baltimore, one of our associates at New Psalmist. Well, we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Of course, as we continue to roll through, make sure you're swiping to the right, sharing this with everybody, all your friends and followers, and also sending it out. Take screenshots. I encourage you definitely take screenshots from Mount Olive Free Will Baptist. Oh, yes, with Bishop Oscar Brown's the pastor. Make sure you take screenshots, share them out on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and as always, use the hashtag Bible Basics. That's Bible Basics. If you are sharing right on Periscope, it'll automatically share it out because I use that in the description. And of course, as we go along, make sure you send up the hearts of Periscope's currency. We want to let everybody know who's searching around on Periscope. They see this class called Bible Basics with all these hearts, and they'll take a look at it, and then they too can learn about the Word of God. So even now, I just want everybody, just tap the screen a couple times. Let's see those hearts fly up. I want to make sure everybody knows how to do it. Make sure they're sending it up properly. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and jump right into our lesson. Got a couple little announcements for you guys this week. A lot's going on. Of course, tomorrow night at New Psalmist, we'll be in communion. Dr. Thurman James from the Bethany Baptist Church is going to be our guest preacher, so I encourage you to come on out 6:45 at the Holy City of Zion. As always, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and right here on Periscope at MINJ Thomas. If you swipe to the right, click on my picture, just hit follow. That way you'll get notifications for whenever we go live in Bible Basics or any of our other sessions and just what's happening around Baltimore that I'll share on Periscope. And of course, as always, if you've been blessed by these Periscopes, I encourage you to sow back into the ministry of the New Psalmist Baptist Church. You can text a gift of any amount right on your phone, send to the number 28950, and in the message line, put NPBC space and then the amount you want to give. You don't have to put a dollar sign. You can just put the amount. But if you've been blessed by these Periscopes and the general mission of the New Psalmist Baptist Church, I encourage you to sow back into it. It's great ground. God is using us to do so many great things, and he allows us to use this medium to bless people, to share the message of Jesus Christ, and to spread instruction on the holy word that God has given us. And many of you guys probably know we are having our February Millennial Fellowship on February the 26th, the last Friday of the month. We are going laser tag out in Owings Mills, XP Laser Sports. The tickets are just $21, and they include 4 games. So we get 4 games. So we're gonna get a lot of time out there in the laser tag arena, having fun with other millennials. There's just a limited number of tickets available. So I encourage you to go right now to newpsalmist.org. You'll see the link. Click right on laser tag. It'll be scrolling across the top of the page, and purchase your ticket, because we want to make sure that you're there. We just have a limited number of tickets available, so get your ticket sooner than later so you're in the number. We're going to have a good time. We're going to see who's going to win. I think we may do 1 or 2 games with guys versus girls to see if the guys or the girl who are going to win in laser tag. But it's going to be a fun time. We've got a party room out there, so I encourage you to get your tickets. It's going to be a great time to fellowship with other millennials. If you've been watching these Periscopes, you're a member of New Psalms, you come on Sunday, you participate in Periscopes, you feel that you're growing, we want to take that to the next level and begin to build true, authentic community and relationships in the millennial ministry. And this is a perfect opportunity. Come on out, laser tag on that day, on the 26th at 8 p.m. Get your ticket today so that you can connect with some other millennials, begin to put some faces to the names we see pop up each and every week on Periscope in our Facebook group, and begin to build strong relationships in our millennial ministry at the New Psalmist Baptist Church. If you don't know, of course, the Facebook link is in my bio. If you're on Facebook, just search Millennial Ministry NP, or you can go to facebook.com/groups/NPBCMM. That's New Psalmist Millennial Ministry. Hope to see you. Connect, join the Facebook group, stay connected with us to know all that's happening. Alrighty. So as you guys know, we've been traveling over these last couple of weeks, about a little over a month and a half or so. We've been traveling through the books of history. We started with the books of the law, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And now we are in the books of history. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. We've gone all the way through Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and now we continue in 1st Kings. Last week we went over Solomon's reign as king. We talked about how Solomon took over after his father David died, how Solomon prayed to God for wisdom, and he became one of the wisest kings ever to walk the face of the earth, because God gave him the desires of his heart, which were wisdom. And Solomon was able to build a temple to the Lord, build a great place where God's people could worship their God, present their sacrifices to their God, and their temple was a physical reminder and representation of how powerful their God is. But as he did so many great things, Solomon got hooked up with so many wives. He had over 1,000 wives and concubines, and with them, those wives, they began to turn his heart away from God and to other gods. And because he took his eye off of God, he did not serve God and only God. God said, because you have done this, there will be a price to pay. And there's going to be some tearing apart of the kingdom after you die. But because of your father David, I won't allow it to happen in your lifetime. And that's where we finished off last week. As we looked at Solomon's reign, he reigned for 42 years as king of Israel. And now we are looking at what happens after Solomon dies. And it's very interesting. So we're going to jump right into it today. First person we're going to talk about today is a guy by the name of Jeroboam. Some of you who have been reading through as we've gone along in these studies know Jeroboam, and you've been familiar with him. Well, Jeroboam is the son of Nebat, who was one of Solomon's servants. And God selected Jeroboam to be the king of the northern tribes. God told Solomon that because of his actions, he was going to tear the kingdom apart, but he wouldn't let it happen during his lifetime. But God anointed Jeroboam to be the leader of the northern tribes, the tribes that will be taken out of the line of David. He had a prophet came to Jeroboam and ripped his robe into 12 different pieces, which represented the 12 tribes. And all of them no longer were connected as one unified cloak, one unified kingdom. But now they were broken apart, 10 one place, 2 somewhere else. And now we see the roots that are happening as the kingdom is being split apart. So Jeroboam gets this vision, and God makes a covenant with Jeroboam. He says that I will establish you, I will place you on the throne of the northern kingdoms, I will make your descendants great, I will make you powerful in the ways of the Lord, I will do great things through your lineage. All you have to do, somebody has heard this before, all you have to do is follow my commands and do what I tell you to do. This is a theme we've heard so many times before. Let's look at it. Let's look just in the books of history. Because remember, these first books of history, Joshua, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, are compiled by the Deuteronomic historian. So it's one continuous work from the Deuteronomic historian. So we see these reoccurring themes over and over. We saw it when we began in the book of Joshua, when God told Joshua, be strong and courageous. Just as I was with Moses, I will be with you. I will guide you and lead you. Just follow my command. We saw it with Joshua. We saw it again with Saul. Saul was instructed to follow the commands of the Lord, and God will make you great. We saw it again with David. God told David that if you do what I tell you to do, I will make your descendants stay on the descendant of your house remain on the throne forever. We saw it with Solomon, when Solomon prayed to the Lord and wanted to build the temple, and God said, I'll give you wisdom. And he says, if you trust me, if you follow in the footsteps of your father David, I will continue to keep the covenant I made with him. So we've seen this time and time again, where there's a covenant made by God with a leader. And the covenant's instructions, all that the person has to do is follow God's commands, keep the law that was given to Moses, do what God has instructed, and God will make them great and carry out great things in their lives. So God now has made this covenant. We see it again with Jeroboam. He is going to be the leader of all the northern kingdoms, the kingdoms that will be known as Israel. We'll come back to that in a little bit. God also promises, though, not only to give the northern kingdom to Jeroboam, but even in the covenant, God remembers David and remembers the covenant that he had with David. Though Solomon has done evil in the eyes of the Lord and turned his heart away, God does not forget about the covenant he had with David. And because of that, God says, I'm still going to keep a descendant of David on the throne. Though it's not the unified kingdom, it's the kingdom in the house down in Judah. And the place where David reigned, I will always keep one of his descendants on the throne there. So we see this theme that I've continued to be sharing with you guys of how David was a man after God's own heart. You've heard it time and time again. And now, even when David's descendants have done wrong, because God had the covenant with David, and because David lived and walked blamelessly before the Lord, though David made mistakes, though David was human, so he didn't do everything perfect, he never turned his heart away from God. And when you don't turn your heart away from God, God will show you how he can still use you in spite of all the things you've done wrong. So David's descendant will always be on the throne in Judah, but God is now establishing Jeroboam as the leader and the king, and his lineage will carry on in the northern kingdoms known as Israel. So that's Jeroboam. We see the story. Jeroboam is anointed while Solomon's still away. He goes off to Egypt to remain safe so that nobody comes up against him. And then Solomon dies. Solomon dies, and then his son. Now we move to our next character in this narrative, which gives us the linchpin upon which the rest of the books of 1st and 2nd Kings are really built upon. The next character we have is Rehoboam. Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. So he is David's grandson. He falls in line with Solomon. And after Solomon's death, all of Israel proceeds to Shechem to install Rehoboam as the next king to follow in his father's footsteps. So remember, let's go back. David is the first king in his line. Saul, of course, was the first king of Israel, but David follows in. Then we see the first ever transition of power in a family, a dynasty, from David to Solomon. First time. Remember, I said when we talked about it last time, it was the first and only time, because now Rehoboam is getting ready to be installed as king. And the people come to Rehoboam and they say, you know, your father was very tough on us. He forced us into labor. We had to build the temple. We had to build his palace. He really he ran a tight ship. He cracked the whip, made us do a lot of work. And we just want to know, are you going to be like your father? Because we're tired. We're beat down. We don't want to have to be forced to do labor for a king. This is not the life we want to live. This reminds us of the life we came out of some 480 plus years ago when God brought us out of Egyptian captivity. We don't want to go back into that same life. They come to Rehoboam and say this, and Rehoboam says, all right, go away for 3 days, come back, and then we'll talk through this thing, and I'll give you guys an answer so I can lay out my plan for how I'm going to lead as the next leader following in my father's footsteps. So Rehoboam sends the people away, and then he goes out, and for 3 days, he goes to his council. First thing he does, he goes to the elders. He goes to the elders and asks the elders, what should I do? The people are saying that my father was very tough. Should I be tough on them too? Or should I hold back? And the elders say, Rehoboam, if you give them what they want now, then they will always be loyal to you. That's what the elders said. The wise men, those smart, the old sages in the community, they told him that if you give them what they ask for now, you will always have their loyalty. That sounds right. And many of us know that that's probably what we would have done. If the people coming to us saying, are you going to be as hard as the past leader? And knowing that the past leader was tough on them, and we say, well, you know what? Maybe we'll ease it back a little bit. Then that endears the people to us, and it builds our credibility and gives us a chance now to start off on a good footing. So that's what the elders tell him. But for some strange reason, he decides to ignore the elders and ask his friends what they think he should do. And let's pause right there, because you know this Bible study, of course, is geared towards millennials, but we need to look at it and say, he goes to the elders. The elders give him good advice, good sound advice, but he ignores it. And he decides to instead go to his friends, go to his peers. And one of the things that we can learn from this story is that God will always place people around us that can give us the wisdom we need. We just have to trust it. You know, I'm 28 years old, and almost every major decision I make in my life, I make sure I take counsel of wise, older folk that are around me, whether that's family, whether that's people from church, whether that's people in the community, to get their input on what I should do. That's not because God hasn't placed in me the ability to make the decision, but no, the scripture tells us that in the multitude of counsel there is wisdom. God will give us counsel to use it to gain wisdom. Rehoboam gets good counsel from the elders, but then he goes to his friends and says, well, I don't want to listen to the old folk. What y'all think I should do? And in typical fashion, in typical ignorant fashion, because whenever you ask people who've never been there, they will never give you advice that can really help you in attaining the position that you've never held. Let me say that again. Whenever you go to people who not only haven't been where you're going, but can't even fathom what it's like to be on that level, they will not be able to fully comprehend and understand what you should do in this time. That's why whenever God opens a major door for you, whether that's in a new job, whether that's with a new purchase of a house or a car, or even in a relationship, you meet somebody and God progresses the relationship along. You don't go to your friends who have never been in a relationship to get advice. No, you go to somebody who's been in a relationship, who's been there, done that, to get advice, because the advice that they give you will be based off of experience and understanding. You go to people who've seen, as the old folks say, a few risings of the sun and settings of the sun, who can tell you based off of examples of what they've seen happen, give you advice on what you should do. Even people who may not have been in the exact same situation, but have witnessed it and learned from it. The elders have seen how Solomon had the people would do whatever he wanted when he started. But as his leadership went on, and as he forced them to do more and more labor, he began to lose the trust of the people and lose their loyalty. They no longer were saying, I'll do whatever the king asks, but now they had some resentment to the king. So he goes to his friends, and his friends tell him, well, no, you need to tell the people that if they think your father was bad, you got more power in your little finger than he had in his whole hand. And they told him to go back to the people and to press them harder, to push them harder, to give them a heavier yoke around their neck, heavier than what his father gave them, so that he appears to have power. I had Nikki, this isn't in the notes, so we may not have all this stuff on the Facebook, but I want to pause here, because his friends tell them, he goes to both groups, to the elders and to his friends, seeking direction on what to do to maintain power. The elders tell him to give the people what they want, because by giving them what they want, he will gain their respect, gain their loyalty, which will in turn give him power. One approach to power. The second approach to power, which is from the friends, the peers, people who've never had power. They say, no, you have to talk it so that everybody will see through your talk that you have power. And that's how you gain power. Two different approaches to getting power. One fails miserably. The other would have set him up for success. Instead of listening to the elders, listening to those who have seen how power is maintained and gained, he listens to those who've never had power. He listens to those who've never bought a major purchase. He listens to those who've never been in charge of anything. He listens to those who still live with their mother and father when he's trying to figure out how to run a household. He's talking to somebody who's still sleeping in their room with their posters on the wall from when they were in high school, asking them what they should do. So, of course, they aren't able to give him the right advice on how to maintain power. So he listens to his friends, and the people come back, and they ask him again. Well, no, he says to them rather, you asked me if I was going to be as bad as my father. Well, I'm telling you, you thought he was bad. I'm going to be worse. I'm going to do things with so much more power. He ran with whips. I'm going to run with scorpions. So we're going to do more. I've got more power than he did. He thought that was going to give him power. Instead, it made him lose the power. Sometimes holding on too tight to something will make you lose it. Instead of giving up the power and telling the people that they had the power, that they requested it and he granted it to them. Instead, he wanted to give off the appearance that he had all the power, that he held all the cards, and because of it, he lost it. Text goes on and the story continues to tell us that the northern kingdom says, you know what? We ain't taking this. We out. And they leave. And no longer are they subjecting themselves to the leadership of the king on the throne in the south. So the kingdom has now been split. It gets so bad that Rehoboam sends up his leader, his director of forced labor, so to say. And he sends him up there to get the people in line, to get them back to work. And they stone him. That's when you know it's bad. The man who sends up the government official to go up there and get the people back in order. And the people say, we so sick of this, they killed a man. And then next they were going to kill Rehoboam, but he's able to escape. But at the same time, all this is happening. Remember, I told you Jeroboam had fled to Egypt. After Solomon dies and after he hears of Solomon's death, hears that the people are going down to Shechem to install Rehoboam as the king, Jeroboam begins his journey back. He comes on back. And when the people hear that Jeroboam is back, the northern kingdoms, they call him up and they install Jeroboam as the new king of the north, which becomes Israel. This is where I want to pause right here. And now let's move on and transition as we continue our study. So now we've gone from the unified kingdom to now the kingdoms are separate. And let's pause here and look into this new division in the kingdoms. So of course, the kingdoms were divided into two categories, the United Kingdom and divided kingdom. The United Kingdom is what David led. We'll go even back to Saul. Saul led the United Kingdom. Then David led the United Kingdom for 33 years, completely united. And then Solomon took over for 42 years, the United Kingdom, all 12 tribes, everybody in the promised land, all God's chosen people. This time they're subjected under the leadership of these kings. So that's a long year. That's over almost 100 years of United Kingdom, whether it was from Saul right on through David, then to Solomon, where all of Israel, all of God's promise of God's children in the promised land are under one leader. But after Solomon turned his heart away from God, God said, I'm going to rip this kingdom apart. And now we have the divided kingdoms. So remember that. If you're taking notes, write that down. We go from the United Kingdom, which is when all the 12 tribes, everybody in the promised land is together. Then we go to the divided kingdom. And that's where the northern tribes and the southern tribe of Judah have now been split. And the northern tribes become known as Israel. And the southern tribe become known, the southern kingdom, as Judah. So as we continue our study, you'll now begin to hear Israel referred to a chosen people and Judah referred to a chosen people. Israel is the northern tribes. Judah is the southern tribe. Judah, the king of Judah, is always in the line of David. God established David's lineage as always the leader, always the king in the tribe of Judah. In Judah, the nation of Judah, for our understanding. The northern kingdom starts off with Jeroboam. Jeroboam becomes the first king of the northern kingdoms. Israel, the country Israel. We'll hear the nation of Israel. So now I wanted to make sure you guys understood that as we continue to go, is that now Israel and Judah no longer are interchangeable, but they represent two different people, two distinct areas and two distinct kingdoms. So let's look at the Jeroboam's reign as the first king of Israel. And as we begin to wrap up, I want to make sure I get you guys set, and then we're going to jump in next week, going a little deeper, continuing through, because things, as you see, are starting to get a little interesting. And if you're not careful, this is where you can start to get confused as you read through the books of Kings and really start to not understand what's happening, because the stories will jump back. The Deuteronomic historian seeks to travel in a chronological order, but in traveling in this chronological order, he jumps from the history of Judah to the history of Israel and the history of Judah back and forth chronologically, but it can get a little confusing if you're not careful. So I wanted to make sure you guys understood when you see Judah, that's talking about the southern kingdom. That's where the line of David is always established as on the throne. If you see Israel, that's talking about the northern kingdoms. That's the one that split off, where Jeroboam starts as the first king. So Jeroboam is installed as king. They have put him over. The northern tribes come together. These 10 tribes have come together. Just for a quick aside, in the south, you'll see the tribe of Judah, and you also see the tribe of Benjamin. So you'll hear 10 and 2, and you say, well, he's just saying Judah. Remember the tribe of Benjamin. You'll see Rehoboam mounts up. He gets his tribe. All of Judah gathers. And then also the tribe of Benjamin travels with him into battle when they begin to go up against Israel before God stops them. So just a quick little parenthetical note. I know somebody had a question. I saw it pop up. So the 10 tribes in the north. Then the southern kingdom is Judah. But the tribe of Benjamin is also there with him. So we'll see those two connected. But when we refer to it, we'll just call it the nation of Judah, nation of Israel, just for easy understanding in our Bible study, in our Bible basics, just so you guys are understanding, referring to them as nation, you see that they have two different kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel, kingdom of Judah. So Jeroboam is now the king of Israel, and installed as king of Israel, he is faced with some interesting new dilemmas. This is the first time since the temple has been built that the tribes are now separate. Remember, God told him to make sure you keep the commands that I give you, follow my instructions. The command of Moses required that all of God's chosen people once a year go to the house of the Lord, go to the temple of the Lord, wherever the Ark of the Covenant is, which was God's physical representation of his presence to his people. He requires that once a year they go to that place and offer sacrifice. So this creates a dilemma because now the kingdom is split. But the Ark of the Covenant is in Judah, in Jerusalem. That's where the Ark is, in this temple, this marvelous temple that Solomon has built. So in order for the northern kingdom of Israel to keep the commands of God, they have to travel to another nation, into another kingdom, into somebody else's jurisdiction. Jeroboam says, this might not be a good idea. I don't want my people to have to go down to Rehoboam's land, because when they get there, they may forget about me, turn back, give their allegiance back to him, and come and try to kill me. So Jeroboam has the bright idea to say, you know what? I'm going to build 2 places of worship in the northern kingdom so that my people don't have to travel to Jerusalem to offer sacrifice in their pilgrimage once a year that God has commanded us to do. So Jeroboam takes it upon himself to build 2 places of worship, one in Dan, which is at the north, and one in Bethel, which is at the south in their kingdom. And in these places of worship, he builds golden calves. Somebody sees right there that now he done already messed up. He has built golden calves to represent God's presence. He's built idols. But he doesn't just stop there. He also begins to make priests. Remember, God said the Levites, the tribe of Levi, are to be the priest. Nobody else. Levites did not get land in the promised land. They didn't get their own area because they're supposed to be the priest. But Jeroboam first messes up by building golden calves and idols. Now he starts making priests out of lottie-dottie and everybody. He said, you're a priest, you're a priest. You want to be a priest? You can be a priest. You want to be a priest? You can be a priest. Not taking the priest from the tribe of Levi. Second thing he's done wrong. So Jeroboam had already sinned against God. He just got installed yesterday as the king. God gave him a promise, said, all you got to do is follow my commands and I'll take care of you. I will establish you on the throne forever. And Jeroboam had already messed up. God sends people to him to try to get him back on course, but Jeroboam just is all out there and there's no turning back for him. So now the northern kingdom is already out of right relationship. Let's go to the southern kingdom. Let's go to Judah and see if Judah at least has gotten it right. First thing, Rehoboam's still mad that they broke off from him. So Rehoboam gathers all the men of Judah as well as the tribe of Benjamin and goes to attack the northern kingdoms. Over 180,000 men. They go to attack, but God sends word to his priest saying, no, the reason this happened is because Solomon fell away from me. He turned his heart from me. And because of that, then there had to be a split. So don't attack them. Go on back home. So that's the first time he almost did something wrong, but he listened this time. But Rehoboam's got the kingdom, got the temple there, but Rehoboam also messed up. He begins to build high places all over Judah for worship and to offer sacrifice. When God has told them where to offer sacrifice, he decides he wants to build high places all around. Then he starts to make sacred stones. God has told them, don't make idols, just worship me. You ain't got to have idols for me. You got the ark. You go where the Ark of the Covenant represents my presence. You go there, you worship me, you pray to me. But now Rehoboam decides he wants to make sacred stones all over and put them in these high places. But now we got the big no-no. God says, you shall have no other gods before me except for me, only me. Me, myself, and I. I'm supposed to be only God. But Rehoboam begins to build Asherah poles. Asherah poles represent to the god Asherah, which is a goddess, which is connected, here it comes, to Baal, B-A-A-L, the god Baal. Baal, where you'll see it different. Some people say it different ways. So now, not only has he built these high places for sacrifice all around outside of the temple, not only has he put up sacred stones everywhere, but now he's built Asherah poles for worship to the goddess that is in connection with Baal. God is like, come on, man. You done had an example of how to rock right. Your grandfather rather did it. Your father started off right, but then he turned from me. And now you just completely messing up. And the text tells us that God is even more furious with this generation than he was before. He gave Solomon a pass. He said, I'm not going to bring my anger against you in your lifetime because of your father. But now we're 2 generations away from David, and the people once again can't get right. So God says, you know what? I'm furious against y'all. God always gave the promise. He says, if you do my commands and follow the instruction I've given you, I will provide for you and I will protect you and I will make you rise up against all of your enemies. But when you don't follow my commands, I will let your enemies come up against you and be successful in taking you down. Because of that, the Egyptians come in, take away all the treasure in the temple, take away the treasures in the gold, the great things, the valuable stones, take them away from the temple and from the palace. And Rehoboam is left with just bronze in place of gold because he did not follow God's commands and he did not keep the law that God told him to do. So quick recap. The kingdom has now been split. In the north, they're building golden calves to God. In the south, they're building Asherah poles, worshiping other gods. So now we see, ain't nobody doing right. It's a theme, we'll see it. The north has messed up, the south has messed up. I'm going to drop this little thing on you guys because for some of my overachievers, you'll hear this. The north never gets it together. We'll talk about it. They have a couple times where they get close, they get it back for a little bit, but then they can't get right. So remember, I said this before. You've heard this said over and over. You've probably heard it in different areas of life. The lost tribes of Israel. Those come from the north. I'll let you think about how they might have gotten lost, what they might have done. That's something that I want you guys just to think about as we continue to study. We'll get there probably not next week, the week after next. We'll probably get to that point where we see how all the tribes have been. The north is under attack. It happens in 722 for my overachievers. It happens in 722 BC. That's before Christ or before Common Era, BCE, before Common Era, whatever dating tools you're using. But 722, the northern tribes, we lose them. But we see the thread now. The northern tribe has been founded. And from the start, they don't follow God's commands. And they continuously go down the wrong path. So that's all for today. We have now seen the transition from David, from Solomon. And now we see the split in the kingdom. And we see the seeds sold for what will lead us eventually to exile. Because remember, the Deuteronomic historian has compiled this work for the Jews in exile. So as we start to see the seeds being sown for why exile has come. So I just want to make sure you guys are constantly thinking that through, remembering that this is the audience the Deuteronomic historian is writing to. The chronicler is writing to the Jews that have returned. The Deuteronomic historian is writing to the Jews that are in exile. So he is seeking to give understanding for why the exile has come. So we start to see some of the threads now for why the exile has come. Next week, we're going to pick up, and as we travel through the book of 1st and 2nd Kings, we're going to look next week, starting to look at the role of the prophets. Up to now, as we travel through these books of history, the prophets have been sought out after the kings to give them guidance, to let them know if they should go forward in situations, whether it was Samuel coming to Saul, anointing him first, then coming to Saul saying you're not doing right, then going to David and anointing him, then Nathan going to David and telling him that God is not pleased with what he's done with Bathsheba, or Nathan going back to David when after his other son Adonijah was seeking to rise to the throne, going back to David with Bathsheba, giving counsel on how to install Solomon as the next head. We saw it as even there was some dissension that whenever someone was looking to justify what they were doing, they were trying to find a priest, so that whether it was Abiathar going to Absalom and giving him understanding and guidance and word from the Lord when he was trying to take over David. But now the role of the prophets is going to change. We're moving into an era, and I will talk about more, where the prophets now are giving critique. Up until this point, David, hard after God. When he did wrong, prophet came and told him he did wrong. He repented, fell on his face. Solomon started off hard after God, doing what God instructed him to do. But then he turned his heart away from God, and God was not happy. Now we see it with Rehoboam and Jeroboam. They completely out there. They doing stuff that is completely against what God wants them to do. And now the role of the prophet is going to be to come and to give critique to what the king is doing and to let him know what thus saith the Lord. So that's where we'll stop. Next week we'll talk about the role of the prophets, and we'll talk about perhaps one of the greatest prophets. Many of you have known this name, the prophet Elijah. I'm excited about as we get into the prophet Elijah. It's going to be a great time. But I hope you guys were blessed today as we looked at this critical turning point in the kingdom. Make sure that you guys send, if you were blessed today, just tap the screen. I want to see the hearts fly up for everybody who was blessed. Of course, send me an emoji. Put your hand, the emoji hand up. You can do the praying hands emoji. You can do the 2 hands up. You can do the thumbs up. You can do a diamond. Whatever you want to do. Send up those emojis. I want to see those emojis fly. Make sure that you guys are being blessed by these Periscopes week after week. I'm really enjoying going through this study as we continue to look at the composition of the Bible and take it piece by piece so that we have a better understanding of the word that God has given us. For the Bible is God's word, but it's also God's revelation to his people. And in it, we learn about God's redeeming love in each and every step. Though it seems gloomy now, as we continue to go through, we learn more and more about God's redemption and God's love for all people. So once again, connect with us on Facebook. The Facebook link is in my, oh yes, you know, we got to throw up the diamond right there. So yes, that's my line brother, Dr. Kingpin. Glad to throw that in there, my line brother. So yes, make sure you connecting with us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/NPBCMM, and you can go right to newpsalmist.org to get your tickets for Laser Tag on February the 26th at 8 p.m. We're going to have guys versus girls, see who's going to win when we get into that Laser Tag arena. And these Bible studies will be up on, this one will be up on Periscope for 24 hours and then right on YouTube. And all of them are on YouTube. So if you missed any of them, you can go right to YouTube and watch them there. Oh yes, we'll keep you in our prayers when our new members of New Psalms. So once again, thank you guys for taking this time out with me. Next week, we'll pick right back up, looking at the prophets and looking at Elijah. So until then, you stay empowered and blessed. Hope to see you at New Psalmist tomorrow night for communion worship. And then on the 26th for Laser Tag with the Millennials. Once again, it's only open to Millennials, 18 to 33. So if you're an honorary millennial for the Periscope, God bless you. But you can't come laser tag with us. It's just for the millennials, 18 to 33. So hope to see you guys there. So be blessed. Take care.